Hello there my friends, and welcome back once again to Cryptid Central. In today's video we'll be taking a look at 10 more cryptids that you may not have heard of. From the deepest depths of the world's cold and dark oceans to the hot and humid jungles of South America, there are many bizarre cryptids out there just waiting to be discovered. So without further ado, let's begin our journey. Papua New Guinea. Home to the Kaiamunu, a living dinosaur. The Kaiamunu is a strange hybrid of sauropod and theropod, possessing the long neck typical of Brachiosaurus and Apatosaurus, but unlike them it walks on its hind legs. On its front legs it has long, sharp claws. While the first sighting of this creature by humans is unknown, its most recent sighting took place in 2006. The Kaiamunu has been compared to the thought-to-be extinct Therizinosaurus, as the two creatures closely resemble one another. While it is considered unlikely to actually be a Therizinosaurus proper, it has been theorized that the Kaiamunu is in fact one of its descendants. Some present-day animals remain more or less unchanged in appearance from their ancient ancestors. Sharks and crocodiles, for example, have retained most of their outward features since the days of prehistory and have remained relatively unchanged, differing only in size and with some slight bodily changes. It could be that the Kaiamunu is a direct descendant of the Therizinosaurus. Others speculate that, due to the creature walking on its hind legs, it could be a descendant of the raptor family of dinosaurs. The similarities are there. Raptors had a long neck, though not quite as long as the Kaiamunu, walked on their hind legs and had claws on their front appendages. This modern-day dinosaur could be a highly evolved velociraptor, changed by 65 million years of continued survival and evolution. In Java, Indonesia, there is a flying giant bat. When you think of giant bats, the golden-crowned flying fox may be what comes to mind. For this cryptid, however, you'll need to think bigger. The Ahool, named after the sound of its loud cry, is a giant bat-like creature that also possesses ape-like facial characteristics. It has large, dark eyes like that of a bat, and red-skinned wings. It has large, sharp claws on its forearms and is covered with grey fur. Its wingspan can be up to an enormous 28 feet across. The Ahool mostly eats local fauna, such as large fish. However, if it happens to come across a human being, it will gladly take the opportunity to make a meal out of them. Meat is meat, after all. This cryptid is extremely aggressive and highly territorial, and will attack prey larger than itself, such as rhinos, if they unwittingly wander into its dominion. In 1925, Dr. Ernest Bartels, a naturalist, was exploring a waterfall in the Salak Mountains when a giant unknown bat, the Ahool, flew directly over his head. 2 years later, in 1927, Dr. Ernest Bartels encountered the Ahool again. One night, as he was lying in bed, inside his thatched house in western Java, he listened to the sounds of the jungle as he did every night. All of a sudden, Dr. Bartels heard an unusual sound, something very different from what he would usually hear, coming from above his hut. A loud cry that seemed to utter, "Ahool!" Brazil, home to a great number of frightening cryptids. You've heard of werewolves, humans who, when the moon is full, transform into wolf-like humanoids. Brazil probably has these, just like most other countries of the world. But as well as werewolves, it also has something else, similar in many ways. The Capelobo. A human that, at certain times, takes on anteater-like characteristics. Standing at 7 feet tall and with a powerful, muscular build, these creatures are not something that you'd want to come across in the Brazilian rainforest on your own. Their fur is thick and matted, their skin extremely tough, armor-like, and able to withstand gunfire. They have long, razor-sharp claws. They have strangely shaped round feet, almost hoof-like, that leave strange tracks not unlike a glass bottle that has been pressed into the ground. The Capelobo stinks. It has a foul odour powerful enough to stun its opponents. It has a shrill cry that can be heard up to 10 miles away and has been known to send hunters and explorers to the brink of insanity. It has a ravenous appetite and uses its long snout to suck the brains out of its victims' skulls in a mosquito-like fashion. A huge, hulking, vampiric brute with a putrid stench and a cry that causes all to hear it to lose their minds. No thank you. Remaining in South America, in the small country of Patagonia, we have a half-fox, half-serpent hybrid. Highly aggressive and larger than a puma, this cryptid uses its flat yet muscular and unusually large tail to crush its victims to death, after which it drags their carcass away to its lair to be devoured. As is often the case with cryptids, and the brave explorers who put their lives on the line to discover them and show them to the world, Florentino Ameghino was met with outright scorn from the scientific community when he proposed that the creature existed and was possibly connected to the Mylodon, a giant ground sloth thought to be extinct, which Ameghino believed was still alive in the region. Many Patagonian natives knew of the existence of this creature, but, always knowing better, the open-minded scientists of the mainstream completely disregarded their testimony. Some things never change, do they, traveller? In Lake Tota, Colombia, the legendary Diablo Ballena, or the monster of Lake Tota, lurks in the deep. Oftentimes, lake monsters resemble the extinct plesiosaur, the most notable example being the Loch Ness Monster, and another being the monster of Lake Champlain, known as Champ. The monster of Lake Tota, however, is quite different. The creature's Spanish name, Diablo Ballena, means demon whale. Described as a fish with a black head like an ox and larger than a whale by conquistador Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada, it was also referred to as a black monster and the dragon. The native Muisca people of Colombia have passed down stories of the Lake Tota monster for centuries. In the 1600s, the creature became known to the Western world through Spanish colonial settlers who brought stories of the beast back with them to Europe. In 1852, Manuel Ancizar, a Colombian writer, politician and teacher, recorded the monster in his book, The Pilgrimage Alpha for the Northern Provinces of New Granada, referring to it as the Freshwater Devil. The last sighting of the monster of Lake Tota took place in the 19th century. Is the creature undergoing a centuries-long period of hibernation? Has it perhaps reached the end of its life cycle and passed away? Possibly. Or maybe it's still out there, lurking deep within the dark waters of Lake Tota. Ah, the ocean. So much of it yet to be explored. So much bizarre wildlife. The creatures we know about who live under the sea are strange enough, but the ones that are merely rumoured but not yet confirmed are even stranger. It has long been speculated that, with enough time, evolution could take many creatures onto a humanoid path. If dinosaurs had not been wiped out by the cataclysmic event that took place 65 million years ago, they could have looked something like this today. If this evolutionary path was possible for the dinosaurs, then perhaps it would also be possible for sea life. The Adaro, a humanoid sea dweller, a merperson, highly aggressive and highly dangerous. Said to live in the waters off the coast of the Solomon Islands. They have gills behind their ears and tail fins instead of feet. Some descriptions mention a shark dorsal fin-like horn and a spear growing out of its head like a swordfish. Stories of the ancient sunken city of Atlantis have been passed down for millennia. Is it possible that the Adaro makes its home there? Are the few Adaro to have been witnessed by humans, perhaps Atlantean explorers who are venturing to the surface to try and observe us and determine just how much of a threat human beings are to them? They are said to arise from the evil in a person's spirit. Is this a cryptic way of saying that they know just how evil human beings can be? If they're wise, they'll continue to give the human race a wide berth. Like the Earth's natural water bodies, the Earth's forests are home to a great many cryptids too. The Splinter Cat, a large feline found all across North America from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean and all the way down to the Gulf. It has also been reported in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The Splinter Cat has a particularly destructive method of finding food. It feeds mostly on raccoons and honey. In order to find these favourite foods, which are often found inside the hollow trunks of trees, it takes a long run up to a tree which has a beehive or a raccoon inside it. The creature then lowers its extremely hard head and charges full speed into the tree's trunk. It hits the tree with such immense force that it often knocks the entire tree down, exposing the delicious honey or tasty raccoon within, which it then devours. It then leaves the area, which by this point has been more or less leveled, like a tornado has hit. Splinter Cat Creek in the northern Cascade Range of Oregon, USA, is named after this legendary animal. The Caribbean. Paradise for some, but tropical regions tend to give rise to extreme examples of wildlife. Its waters are crystal clear, but that does nothing to shed light on this bizarre and, quite frankly, horrifying cryptid. The Lusca, similar in some ways to the Kraken, and frequently reported in an area known as blue holes. It has the tentacles, but this gigantic cephalopod is also said to have the head of a shark. Cryptozoologists are divided on this. Some believe that the creature is in fact a strange, unnatural hybrid of the two creatures created by some unknown force or phenomenon. Others state that, like the Kraken, the Lusca is a gigantic octopus and the shark's head has simply been added over the years as the legend has been passed down. In January 2011, a Lusca's carcass washed up on a beach in the Bahamas. Eyewitnesses state that the remains were only partial, and local fishermen estimated that they would have belonged to an octopus-like creature around 20 to 30 feet in length. The Lusca is said to grow to around 70 feet in length, indicating that the specimen that washed up in the Bahamas in 2011 was only a juvenile. The Shunka Warakin is a large canine. It resembles a wolf or a hyena, or an animal species with similarities to both. Its name means carries off dogs. This gives us an idea of just how large this cryptid is. The creature frequently appears in Native American legend, and some cryptozoologists believe it can be explained by prehistoric mammals such as hyenodons or dire wolves, having survived and lived for much longer than is currently accepted by mainstream Western science. Formerly classified prehistoric animals have been proven to still exist, as we know with the coelacanth. and prehistoric animals like sharks and crocodilians continued to live on throughout the eons. If these animals could do it, so could the hyenodon, or the Shunka Warakin as it's become known. So far we have looked at 9 cryptids that are said to have at one point existed or still exist today. Most of them are animals. A few have supernatural qualities. This next entry, the final cryptid on our list, belongs among those who shouldn't exist. The ones even I wish didn't exist. But they do. You may have heard tales of headless horsemen before. The ghost of a man, taken before his time, eternally intertwined with the spirit of an animal that he spent his final moments with as they died together. The Red Ghost, from a previous video, may spring to mind. The Red Ghost isn't the only one out there, haunting the deserts of the American South, however. I appreciate you joining me so far on this journey, traveller, and if you want to turn back now, I certainly wouldn't hold it against you. But if you're feeling up to the task, you can join me for this one final cryptid tale. This is the story of El Muerto. Texas in the 1800s was a violent and lawless place. Bandits ruled the day and would take what they wanted by any means necessary. During this time in San Antonio, there was a Mexican bandit known only as Vidal. He had survived his chosen lifestyle for quite a while and had found success as a skilled thief. But all things come to an end eventually, don't they, traveller? The bandits were violent men, but the Texas Rangers, whose job it was to bring law and order to the region, were just as brutal. Vidal committed a crime that would put him on the radar of one Creed Taylor, a tough Texas Ranger. Vidal often engaged in the practice of horse rustling, and one day he made the mistake of raiding a ranch owned by Creed Taylor, taking several of his horses. This crime would be the beginning of the end for old Vidal. Taylor eventually tracked down Vidal and his men to their hideout and waited with his fellow rangers for the bandits to fall asleep at nightfall. Once they had put their fire out and retired for the night, the rangers ambushed the sleeping thieves and took them into custody. Creed Taylor was a man with revenge on his mind, brutal revenge at that. He and his men killed Vidal and every one of his henchmen. It was, however, the treatment of Vidal's corpse that angered his spirit and gave birth to El Muerto. Vidal's body was beheaded and then tied securely to his horse, along with his severed head. The horse was then set free to roam the desert, with the decaying corpse strapped to its back, rotting away more and more with each slowly passing, blazing hot day, a truly sickening spectacle that horrified all who came across it. Such degrading treatment of his body didn't sit well with Vidal's spirit, it would seem. He came back to roam the deserts once again. Spotted many times by bandits, lawmen and passers-by, it was said that bullets had no effect on this terrifying spectre, and the legend of El Muerto began to spread across the country. His headless body was eventually captured and buried in the desert unceremoniously, which did nothing to calm his vengeful spirit. One couple traveling between San Diego and San Antonio in 1917 witnessed El Muerto as he passed them on his horse, his severed head screaming, "It is mine, it is all mine," before riding off into the night.